So I'll just briefly talk about the verses. So yeah, since we're going through these this chapter, it's called anyone remember the title? Yeah, it's very easy. Yes, based on scheduled incarnations. Yeah. Since we're going through all the incarnations. Yeah. Anyone know why Srila Goswami is talking about all these incarnations one by one in this chapter? Yeah. Actually, it's true. Yeah, second canto. First and second canto are like the feet. It's just the whole Srimad Bhagavatam is compared to the body of Krishna, and the first, second canto are like the feet. So the feet we understand. Exactly what you said. We start understanding who Krishna is, his various forms, his various powers, and and so forth. So at the feet we understand that. We start understanding through the various incarnations. What else?
Someone, I don't remember who, was saying, Madhava was saying, like, at the end of the first canto, Maharaj Parikshit was like, what is one's duty, in life and at the end of life? And then, if transcendence is what we're doing, like, what do I focus on in my meditations?
Yeah.
And so this is a discussion of the beginning of what to focus on in the meditation.
Yeah, Parikshit Maharaj is curious about all the incarnations. And also in the beginning of the first canto, the questions of the sages, that was one of the questions of the sages as well. They asked about the incarnations also. So this is Bhagavatam answering that question. of the sages, because this conversation is being repeated by Sutta Goswami. So yeah, he's answering the questions of the sages also that way. They ask about the incarnations. All right, so text 11.
The Lord appeared as the Hayagriva incarnation in a sacrifice performed by me, Brahma. He is the personified sacrifices, and the hue of his body is golden. He is the personified Vedas as well, and the supersoul of all demigods. When he breathed, all the sweet sounds of the Vedic hymns came out of his nostrils.
Just picture the horse personality got it. It's coming out of his nostrils. Ever seen horses make those sounds? When they, I don't know what the word for it. Yeah, that. Yeah. So when the Supreme Personality God it does it, the Vedas come out. When ordinary beings do it, other stuff comes out. But yeah. All right. Anyone else? Next verse. Wanna go? So really, you wanna go?
At the end of the millennium, the would-be Vaishvavata Manu of the same Satyavrata would see that the Lord in the fish incarnation is the shelter of all kinds of living entities, up to those in the earthly planets. Because of my fear of the vast water at the end of the millennium, the Vedas come out of my Brahma's mouth, and the Lord enjoys those vast waters and protects the Vedas.
Last verse.
The Prime Ball Lord then assumed the tortoise incarnation in order to serve as a resting place pivot for the Mandara mountain, which was acting as churning rod. The demigods and demons were churning the ocean of milk with the Mandara mountain in order to extract nectar. The mountain moved back and forth, scratching the back of Lord Tortoise, who, while partially sleeping, was experiencing an itching sensation.
Okay, let's do the Sanskrit for this verse. Shiro dadava amara danava yut. Shiro dadava amara danava yuttapanam. Shiro dadava amara danava yuttapanam. Unmattatamam vitalaptaya adideva. Unmattatamam vitalaptaya adideva. Krishtena kachapa vapurvidadhara gotram. Krishtena kachapa vapurvidadhara gotram. Nidrakshano parivartakashana kandu. Nidrakshano parivartakashana kandu. Shiro dadava maratanava yuttapanam. Shiro dadava maratanava yuttapanam. Unmatnatamam ritalapte adideva. Unmatnatamam ritalapte adideva. Krishtena kachapa vapurvidadhara gotram. Krishtena kachapa vapurvidadhara gotram. Nidrakshanotti parivartakashana kandu. Nidrakshanotti parivartakashana kandu. Shiro dadava amaradanava yuttapanam. Shiro dadava amaradanava yuttapanam. Unmattatamam ritalaptaya adideva. Unmattatamam ritalaptaya adideva. Krishtena kachapa vapurvidadhara gotram. Krishtena kachapa vapurvidadhara gotram. Nidrakshanotti parivartakashana kandu. Nidrakshanotti parivartakashana kandu. Shiro dadava maradanava yuttapanam. Unmanatamamritalabdaya Adideva Pristena Kachapavapurvidadhara Dotram Nidrashano Driparivartakashana Kandu Shiro Dadava Maradana Vayutapana Unmagnatamamritalabdaya Adideva Pristena Kachapavapurvidadhara Gotram Nidrakshano Driparivartakashana Kandu Shiro Dadava Maradana Vayutapana Unmagnatamamritalabdaya Adideva Pristena Kachapavapurvidadhara Gotram Nidrakshano Driparivartakashana Kandu Shiro Dadava Maradana Vayutapana Unmagnatamamritalabdaya Adideva Pristena Kachapavapurvidadhara Gotram Nidrakshano Driparivartakashana Kandu Shira Mel, with the Tao in the ocean of Amar, the demigods, Danava, the demons, Utapana, of the leaders of both hosts, Unmatanatam, while churning, Amrita, nectar, Labdava, for gaining, Adideva, the primeval lord, Vistena, by the backbone, Kachapa, for wrist, Vapu, body, Vidadhara, the Gotram, the Mandra Hill, Nidakshana, one party. Advi Parivarta, Golden Hill, Shana, stretching, Kandu, eating. Translation together. The primeval lord then assumed the tortoise incarnation in order to serve as a resting place, pivot for the Mandra mountain, which was acting as a churning rod. The demigods and demons were churning the ocean of milk with the Mandra mountain in order to extract nectar. The mountain moved back and forth, scratching the back of Lord Tortoise, who, while partially sleeping, was experiencing an itching sensation. Alright, we want to use for the purpose.
Although it is not in our experience, there is a milk ocean within this universe. Even the modern scientist accepts that there are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of planets hovering over our heads, and each of them has different kinds of climatic conditions. Srimad Bhagavatam gives much information which may not tally with our present experience. But as far as Indian sages are concerned, knowledge is received from the Vedic literatures, and the authorities accept without any hesitation that we should look through the pages of authentic books of knowledge, Shastra Chakshurvat. So we cannot deny the existence of the ocean of milk as stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam unless and until we have experimentally seen all the planets hovering in space. Since such an experiment is not possible, naturally we have to accept the statement of Srimad Bhagavatam as it is because it is so accepted by spiritual leaders like Sridhar Swami, Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti, and others. The Vedic process is to follow in the footsteps of great authorities, and that is the only process for knowing that which is beyond our imagination.
The Lord, being all-powerful, can do whatever he likes, and therefore his assuming the incarnation of a tortoise or a fish for serving a particular purpose is not at all astonishing. Therefore, we should not have any hesitation whatsoever in accepting the statements of the authentic scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam. The gigantic work of turning the milk ocean by the combined effort of the demigods and the demons required a gigantic resting ground or pivot for the gigantic Mandara hill. Thus, to help the attempt of the demigods, the primeval Lord assumed the incarnation of a gigantic tortoise swimming in the ocean of milk. At the same time, the mountain scratched his backbone as he was partially sleeping and thus relieved his itching sensation.
So yeah, the first two incarnations here, the Hayagriva incarnation and the Matsya incarnation. So yeah, the Hayagriva incarnation, yeah, from his nostrils, the Vedas come in. There's another pastime where there was a demon, I believe, who was trying to steal the Vedas. So Hayagriva incarnation fought him off, the Vedas. And then Matsya also, of course, it's like Matsya is like the Noah's Ark, that pastime in the Bible. So it's like that. It's a lot of commonalities. The the Manu then saved the various species, and of course, then there was the Vedas also that were saved. And so I was just thinking about how it's so important, that there's incarnations that go out and protect the Vedas, the knowledge that can take one back to Godhead. And of course, the Vedas is, there's so much in the Vedas that has to do with the karma kanda, but even that is there so that people can follow something and make progressive march further towards back to Godhead. And I was thinking about just knowledge in books, and wherever there is education and knowledge, there's prosperity of different kind. Oftentimes, we were talking about governments yesterday, right? The Apostle was making the point, it could be a communist government, a capitalist government, and I was thinking how each of these different types of governments are based on which Varna is in charge. When there's capitalism, which Varna? The Vaishyas. They're more gung-ho about things, and a little bit more in charge. But thanks to the Vaishyas, this normally set up a capitalist one. What about the monarchy is obviously judges, and then what about communism? Shudras, the worker class, and they think everybody should be equal. So we're all equal. Set up communism, or at least that's the idea that we're all equal and so forth. Which one am I missing? Which Varna did I miss? Oh, the Brahmanas. Okay, which one is that? What did the Brahmanas set up? But that is something specific within the politicals. Was that? The Brahmanas set up anarchy. So, and when the Brahmanas are in charge, or everyone is a Brahmana, you don't need a government. So because they know what to do, the right thing to do. So there's no government, and it's anarchy in the sense that not that there's chaos. There's actually no chaos. That's why there's no government. So it's actually anarchy in a sense, in a positive sense, not a negative sense. But yeah, so, and that's in the Bhagavatam also. We see how in the Satya Yuga, when everybody was basically Brahmana, there was no Varna really. There's not even Kshatriyas. There was hardly any government, none at all really. And trees, there was no agriculture even. There was no Vaishyas, and what to speak of the Shudras. And so the trees would just give fruits, and everybody would see fruits and whatever was there out there, and they would just do their yagas and everything. We're all happy. And not yagas, sorry, meditation. They do meditate. They would meditate, and so that's how it was way back in the Satya Yuga. And then there was some need for there's some agriculture needed, some governance. So then the governance needed, so Kshatriyas came, and agriculture is needed, then the Vaishyas came, and the Shudras came. And so now, we have all the four Varnas. And but yeah, the Vedas. So yeah, education. But every society needs that, and oftentimes we see that. I was thinking of how when there is a dictator, I guess, or somebody wants to take control of an entire government, nation, or whatever, or society, the first thing they do is they try to get rid of the books. You see that actually historically in India also. You saw that when the British came, they're trying to really subdue the Vedic books, to educate the knowledge part. Like, get rid of those things first. We set up our own education system. That's how, and of course, have in the U.S., like with the Native Americans, we got to civilize them, get them to Christian missionary schools. Similar thing in India too. And of course, other dictators all over the world. I'm sure Hitler burned books. Yeah, he did. Yeah. So the first thing they attack is knowledge because they're smart. They know if you get rid of knowledge, then you can actually control it and so forth. And of course, then other ways of doing it is to distracting people through cell phones, stadiums, big games, gator games, pro gators. And of course, it's there for entertainment, but in a sense, it's a distraction. And even in Old English, these things are called they're just called distractions. Like even modes of entertainment were called distractions. So yeah, they're a distraction. And so in any way where knowledge is subdued, that kind of derails humans from higher thinking. And what to speak of, the highest thinking going back to God. Then people just think about day-to-day things, think of how will I be entertained today, how will I be entertained tomorrow, and so forth. So yeah, those leaders who are just focused on just making their lives better, they try to get away with it. They get rid of knowledge and education, even mundane education. What to talk of spiritual education and knowledge. So that's why there's these incarnations that are protecting specifically the highest knowledge, the Vedas. And as you will see in the various teachers in our line also, and to be honest, any line of teachers, they protect the teachings because they know that if that is lost, then everything is lost. The temples might be gone, the monasteries might be gone. There's so many ancient ruins of so many temples. Like even in our context, in the Vedic context, yeah, there's so many temples. I was meeting up with a friend yesterday, and he's gonna go visit India, and he's gonna go to Hampi. Anyone know anyone heard of that place? Not Humpty Dumpty. It's Hampi. Yeah. Have you been there? Yeah, you've been there. Yeah. And so what's the highlight of Hampi? What's the main thing that happened there? The history, I guess.
It was like the capital, I guess.
It was the capital, but yeah, but way back, my friend told me that Lord Hanuman used to play there. It was like where he grew up.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So yeah, Lord Hanuman grew up, and my friend was showing us pictures, and he was saying, see all these humongous boulders are lying everywhere, right? That's how it is. Yeah. They're lying everywhere, and it's huge boulder on top of small boulder, and somehow they're all still lying intact. And so yeah, my point, things are in ruins. So there might be these ancient temples, and all this might be in ruins. But Vedic culture still persists because the Vedas is still there. And thanks to the Vaishnava acharyas, there's the Bhagavatam, and thanks to Prabhupada, Bhagavatam is in English. It's spreading everywhere. So yeah, that's why Bhaktisiddhanta said, just the books are important. Everything else might go. And that's the nature of this world. And if you see the previous acharyas also after Lord Chaitanya, they focus so much on, the Goswamis focus so much on writing these books. Right? And then the next batch, the next generation, back then things were much slower because there was no printing press, So even to write a book meant, you get these leaves and you got to like scribe on it and so forth. Yeah. And I remember seeing a cartoon once that, they because here in the West they would hammer it, they would like carve on the rock tablets and so forth. And then somebody made an error, they were like, God dang it, get rid of this whole tablet. And so In India, yeah, they would have these palm leaves. I don't know if it was palm leaves or leaves of some kind, and they would scribe on it. That's how books were written back then. So it's a very laborious effort. And then, yeah, so the next generation, Narottam Das Thakur and Shamananda Pandit and Srivas Pandit, yeah, their job was to, we have these books, and it's like it's a treasure. You got to start distributing, book distribution. So they took it all the way to this one kingdom, and they got to the king over there, and so forth. So that was the birth of book distribution. And then, of course, the later acharyas, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta worked a lot with the printing press, and Prabhupada, of course, worked with the printing press and tried to get all these books out. And so that's why the knowledge is so crucial. Everything else might go, but if we have the Bhagavatam and the Chaitanya Charitamrita and the Bhagavad Gita, if that still stayed intact, the line of teachers will continue in some shape or form. So yeah, I just thought, it was so pertinent that there's incarnations protecting the Vedas. So yeah, for us also, it's important to, when knowledge is there, if it is, if it is not shared, knowledge and wealth and other good things in life, if it is not shared, it diminishes. Even if you think about it, just even money, it just sits somewhere, just due course of inflation, the value goes down. Just think about it in a very crude way. So at the least you should put it in the bank or something. Well, not even in a bank. Banks, they give you 0.01% interest. Even there it goes down in value. So you actually have to invest. You have to share somewhere, take a risk. So that's money. And then with knowledge also, you have to share. You have to share knowledge, and you have to take a risk and go out and take a risk that these people might hear, they might not hear. But it doesn't matter. The more we share, it increases. Actually, our knowledge increases, and knowledge in general in society increases. It has to be shared. But if it's not shared, then it just diminishes, and we either just forget our brain tissues putrefy. So you have to share knowledge. One way or the other, one should share knowledge, and especially if one has been given knowledge by the previous acharyas. Then I remember asking Burjan Prabhu once, and I was like, "Oh, Prabhu, I don't really have much realization. How can I share?" And Burjan Prabhu was like, "Well, why do you live at Krishna House?" I was like, "Well, I believe in Prabhupada." And he didn't share that. Whatever your realization is, share that. So it's true. It's like, especially if we have realized something, it's very effective. But even then, even things which we might not have realized, but we can base it on some other realizations that, have faith in Prabhupada, or have faith in the scriptures, or whether it is, I believe, that acharyas, what they're saying has some value. So even then, based on that, you can share knowledge and share that with others. But the most effective is when you've had some realization, deeply shared. I mean, haven't you seen that sometimes when you hear from people who have realized, it has such an impact? And it's funny, I'd like to share that. When I was in Gita Nagari this past weekend, Ranath Maharaj was speaking, and he was sharing about how Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, when he was brand new, I forgot actually. I read his biography, but I forgot that. But Tirtha Maharaj was a very flamboyant figure when he was. He was flamboyant later also, but also when he was very young and new to Krishna consciousness. The devotee would see this black devotee, black person coming in, like really flamboyant, with suits and everything, and they were like, "He's not going to become a devotee." And the only I don't know if it was the only person, but the person who was very supportive, or very, she would talk to him and just encourage him, was Mother Rukmini. And so Rukmini Matsuji, when he would come, she was like, "Oh, how are you doing?" So she would ask him questions. So he always appreciated that she did that. And so it's important for us also. If somebody comes in, we just pay attention to them. Anyway, so he was coming, and then Prabhupada came, so he met him actually. They were having a darshan, and he saw Prabhupada, and he told Prabhupada, "Prabhupada, there's prejudice in your movement." And so Prabhupada said, "Yes, that is nonsense that there's prejudice. And if you are disturbed by that prejudice, then you are nonsense." And I've heard that story, that so many times. But this time when I heard from Radha Maharaj, it just kind of hit me. I was like, oh my God, I get it now. That yes, others might act on a bodily platform, sure, and they might be prejudiced or discriminate or do all kinds of nonsense, as Prabhupada called it. But if we are disturbed by like, oh, this person did this or this happened, I'm so disturbed all the time, that means, yeah, we are also on the same level, basically. If we're so disturbed and we can't, especially if we then can't practice Krishna consciousness, then we're at the same level or maybe even worse. But it just hit me, and I was thinking like, yeah, I've heard it so many times, but then, when you hear it again and again, and you go through life, and then you hear it again, and like, oh my God, I get it now. Like, only took me 15 years now. Yeah, I remember reading the book like 15 years ago, the Black Lotus. Any case, but yeah, the point being, when someone speaks from realization, it just really hits us. So it's our duty, it's our service to really absorb in Krishna consciousness and make internal progress. So we can, Krishna will give us internal realizations, and then we can share it with others. But even if you don't have any realizations, you can still share. It'll still have effect. But it's best is, and that's why that verse says, that one verse about in the CC, that one should paro upkar, that one should do upkar for others, one should give to others to for their benefit. First do your own work for your own benefit spiritually, and then give it to others. So first we have to do our own. We have to grow spiritually. And not that you can't share, not that you have to be this pure devotee and you got to know all the verses and everything before you can go out. Not that, but also practice Krishna consciousness and study scriptures. And Krishna will give realizations. The best realizations I got was on the Mexico bus tour, because we would go out, and so the bus tour we would travel in the day, and not travel in the night, sorry. Wake up in a different city, do a whole festival, go back to bed, wake up in a different city, because they would, the drivers would run the bus during the night, and then it was so ecstatic, and we'd just be out there doing harinams and preaching, and then in the night I would just read the Bhagavatam, and I was like, oh my God, this is the best Bhagavatam reading ever had in my life, actually, because we were just so much into the fire of preaching and Krishna consciousness. So when you do that, when you do service, when you do preaching, then the Bhagavatam speaks more. Because the Bhagavatam is a person, actually. So the more service we do, or more, just dedicated in general we are, Bhagavatam speaks more to us. Otherwise, it's like reading and skimming. So everything has to go hand in hand: kirtan, service, the studying of the scriptures, and they all feed off. They all feed off each other. That's there. So yeah. So that's the two incarnations, and then there's the tortoise, the Kurma incarnation, and the demigods at one point were attacked by the demons, and can you remember the guru of the demons? Shukracharya. The Shukracharya was the teacher, spiritual mentor of the spiritual teacher of the demons, spiritual master, and so he cursed the demigods. And so because of that curse, the demigods were weak. And so when the demons attacked, it's snake-shaped weapons, as it's described in the Bhagavatam. And then they lost the battle. And so they were all scared. They went to Lord Brahma, this very mountain. Lord Brahma took them to the ocean, and they were praying to Lord Vishnu, Vishnu. And so when they were praying, then finally Lord Vishnu came. And when Lord Vishnu came, it was so bright, they were always blinded initially. And then Lord Brahma saw Lord Vishnu, and he said a set of prayers, and then Lord Vishnu said, he gave them advice that go make truce with the demons, and with the context that you will all then go and churn the ocean. And from that you will get immortality. And so he said that, and so the demigods did it. And they'd ask, well, how do we turn it? He said, go get this mountain, the Mandara mountain. Oh, yes, mentioning this word, Mandara mountain. And so they all went, the demigods and the demons, they made truce, and they went and got this mountain, and they were lifting it with their and it was so heavy, some of them were getting crushed. So then Lord Vishnu with the Garuda actually lifted it, put it on the Garuda, and so he helped them out. And then they brought it to the ocean, and Lord Vishnu had told them that when you turn the ocean, you'll get so many things will come out, but don't get distracted by it. Aim, just wait for the main thing. And so in Krishna consciousness also, when churning of the ocean is like the churning of the heart. We start practicing Krishna consciousness. When we start doing service, we start chanting and so forth. So the ocean of milk in our heart starts getting churned. And what was the first thing that came out of the ocean of milk? It's hala hala, hala hala. So in our hearts also, when you start practicing Krishna consciousness, and the first thing that comes out is poison. And later also poison comes out. It keeps coming out. It doesn't just come one time. So the poison came out, and then Lord Shiva was requested to kindly deal with it. So he drank the whole thing. And then Srila Bhagavatam, one drop fell from his hands of poison. So because of the one drop that fell, there's snakes, scorpions, and poisonous plants, I believe. So yeah, that's why there's these entities here on Earth. But so yeah, he drank the poison, and that's why he's the greatest of the Vaishnavas, because he can help us with our false ego. That's the biggest poison that we all have, the false ego that ahankara, that I am the doer, and there's no one better than me, whatever, and or not just that, but not no one better than me, but that I'm the doer. Everything rests on me, and this is there because I did it, and so forth. And it's true, like we're facilitators. We have to. It's not like you don't do anything. You do something. What you do is you depend on Krishna and you do service, and then Krishna acts through us. So one has to recognize that actually, sure, I might have moved my hands or whatever, but Krishna is actually is using me as an instrument. And so Lord Shiva drank the poison, and then they. Oh yeah, I actually forgot the previous part, the main part, the tortoise part. But well before, when they put the mountain into the ocean, it just sank down. So that's when Kurma Avatar came. They came from the ocean, it's lifted up the mountain, and then they were able to turn it with using Vasuki, this snake, huge snake, and so one side of the demigods and demons, and so the demigods, and in front of the demigods was Lord Vishnu also. Ajita is described in Bhagavatam. Ajita one one who conquers, and is unconquerable. Yeah, Ajita. And so he was there in the front, and so they grabbed the head part, and then the demons were like, no, we want the head part. We are superior on the head part. So Lord Ajita and the demon, he just went to the other side of the tail part, because the demon thought on the tail. We want the tail. We want the best. And so when Ajita went on that side, the demigod just followed him. And at that point, when they started churning, Vasuki, was from his mouth, fire started coming, and so all the demons were like, "Oh my god!" They were burned to the crisp. They got burned out. Too much service. Yeah. But it's true. It's like so we should be careful what we want, what we ask for, what we pray for, and so forth. Oh, there you go, the churning of the ocean. And so they were really pushing it, pushing. And so Lord Vishnu like, all right, here you go. and then they got burned out. So so that's also part of the false ego, that we want this, and nothing else, and it's not happening, but I want it happening, like a toddler. But so at some point we realized that actually I'm not in control, and perhaps I should depend on Krishna and see what's the best thing that Krishna is going to send. And it's not not that we should be irresponsible and just be like, oh, whatever Krishna's gonna send. But it's like we should be just grateful for what Krishna sends. And so Krishna does send something or other, and we just depend on Krishna for that. And so demigods, the demigods in the Bhagavatam, so the Bhagavatam was written for us, So demigods, the devotees, they're mixed like us. They have different desires and so forth. And so the demigods really are representing in many ways us, So we have so many lessons to learn from Lord Indra and the demigods and how, they're practicing devotees, So we learn from them that, when a problem comes, like what do we do? They went to their superior, they went to the guru, Lord Brahma. And then from there on, Lord Brahma approached Krishna and Vishnu. And so it's like the same thing for us. We have all these mixed desires and so forth, and calamities come. And what do? We go to our spiritual teacher, we go to our spiritual mentors, and they pray on our behalf. And the best weapon in Krishna consciousness is prayers and the blessings of the devotees. Without that, one is doomed. But with that, can make a lot of progress. And so it's basically the shortcut, actually. You start pleasing the devotees, and Krishna is very rapidly gets pleased, actually. And doesn't matter how fallen you are and so forth. Another thing, Tita Maharaj at the festival, they were sharing that that when somebody was not able to practice Krishna consciousness properly, Tita Maharaj wasn't as unhappy with that person. He was more unhappy with other devotees who were not supporting him. And so the point being, like, when you serve other Vaishnavas and give support, then Krishna gives us support then. And so, the demigods are showing by example, what to do when we have all these calamities in our lives. We pray to the spiritual master, we pray to Krishna and so forth. And then Krishna responds, And I was thinking how the solutions that Lord Vishnu gave, oftentimes when especially if we have a conflict with another person, we go to our spiritual master or whoever, the town president, temple commander, or the town president, or the ashram leader, or whoever. And sometimes we expect, like, then this person. Oh, actually, in my the other service I did, the leadership misconduct office, I've been getting a bunch of emails about one particular leader who shall remain unnamed, and is not here. It's somewhere in North America, and the others. There's a few other complaints about other different people, and it's a bunch of complaints come, and you're like, yes, you want them out, you can get them out, And so oftentimes the expectation is like, are we complaining and this, please get this. Get the. I don't know if the demigods necessarily think get the demons out, but they probably were to some extent. What does Lord Vishnu say? Go make truce with them, right? Okay, and then you'd work together to get this nectar of mortality. And so, oftentimes with us, the solutions that to our problems that we seek, might be different from the solutions we get from Krishna. And Krishna is very intelligent, and he can look at the whole picture, something that our humble brains cannot. And even with our nimble minds, we cannot do that sometimes. So, but Krishna can do it because he's the Supreme Personality Godhead, and so he's very intelligent, and he achieves many through his means and his blessings and his ideas. He achieves many things. He accomplishes many things at once. Something that we cannot always do. Something that we cannot do all the time. So they went to Lord Vishnu and he gave this solution, and then this incarnation of tortoise. And I was thinking, it's just so unexpected. Nobody expected that a huge tortoise will show up and help them with the mountains. I mean, the whole thing is just like on this huge level. Go get this mountain. Go to the ocean, churn it, get this humongous snake that breathes out fire. and I was just reflecting that, Krishna's solutions are extraordinary. And we might think, you do this. If this one thing happens, then everything will be perfect, or whatever the other thing. And so, but actually, Krishna has all this extraordinary solutions. And I'm sure you've heard of devotees going through things or struggling, and like something like just either miraculous happens or something that you can't even fathom. I'll share one story. Mother Malati shares it often. I think it was San Francisco. They were renting a place that was the center, and the rent was due the next day. It was, I don't know how much it was, 1,000 or more, and they were like, "Oh, what do we do?" And I think it was her and Guru Shamasundar. They were walking down the road, and they were like, "What?" And then all of a sudden, she said, "There are these $100 bills, I believe, or bills, dollar bills. Yeah, it's falling from the sky." And they were like, and then they're like, collect it, collect it. So they got their rent money. So it's like, who can, who can think of that? You can't do a whole strategic plan for, there's so many things that we do now, your strategic plan, we're going to solve this problem. There's no strategitic plan that tells you, yeah, go out and walk on the street and the money's going to fall from the sky. You're not going to come up with that conclusion, So there's so many things we can do, sure. It's good to make efforts on our part and do, use whatever tools, strategic planning tools and SWOT analysis and pest analysis, things we have learned in this world. We can use all that. But Krishna does not need SWOT analysis. There's another one which I'll share quickly. Bhaktivedanta Maharaj's festival. Who was sharing there? Was it Radha Maharaj or somebody, Chandramali Maharaj? Maybe. Anyway, somebody was sharing that the temple had a debt. And it was due very soon, like about $40,000 it was due. And do you remember the details of that? There was some more detail to it. Anyways, it wasn't just debt. Anyways, and so it was due, and Bhaktivedanta Maharaj like, and so he was doing arti to Radha Damodar, praying, and he was asking, and so he heard, ask Henry. Yeah, so yeah, ask Henry. And Henry Prue is this nice dude, but he actually lives in Lodja now. He was there at the festival too. And Henry Prue, and I think it's common knowledge, he's comes from a wealthy background, and he's been very nice to devotees. Whenever devotees would go to DC where he used to live, he would always host them, and he would give, donations and so forth. But he heard that, ask Henry, but Mars felt I don't want to ask him. Everybody asks him for donations because he's wealthy. And so he was telling that to Chandramali Maharaj at that time. I heard. And then as he was telling him, Chandramali was like, Maharaj was like, "Oh, there's Henry over there in the temple, in the back. He might as well ask him." So Maharaj went up to him, and Chandramali Maharaj said, I guess he was sharing the story. He saw them, and he saw, Henry's face drop. And then he saw Henry smiling and like talking. Okay. And so he came up to them, and Henry said, "Yeah, I just won this car in a lottery. Somebody had given him a lottery ticket, and he won the lottery. He won a car, and he said, I'm going to cash it in and give that 40,000. I guess it was about $40,000 worth of the car. Give that to the temple. This is so far out, But yeah, but I'm sure there's been moments in your lives too where you were in trouble or you were praying and the solutions that you got were like, oh my gosh, like how did this is so much. Would anyone like to share any stories of yours or some other ones where it's just extraordinary? Yes, please.
Yeah, the main one that kind of kickstarted my whole journey was not knowing what my purpose was, and then I basically said an intentional prayer, to God one night and went to sleep on it, and then I woke up the next morning, and then there was a free scholarship to yoga that I got. That's how I got Happy Jack Yoga. So literally the next morning, I got my answer.
When I was invited to come here to Krishna House, I renounced money in like 2022. And so I never really know where money is going to come from. I didn't know how I was going to get here. I said, yes, okay, I'll come. And Krishna, I was supposed to go to a Harinam on this random Sunday, and I also work with coaching clients. And it just so happened that the Harinam got canceled because someone had to go install a stove somewhere. And so, we're a very small community out in Bhakti SF. So the Harinam got canceled, and it just so happened that I ended up spending like 4 hours with my coaching client. And we have a friendly relationship. And so she knew I was going to Florida. She's like, how are you going to get there? I was like, I don't know. She's like, I'm going to buy you your plane ticket and your rental car so you can go. So it was
Oh,
like,
wow.
I like literally was like, oh, there's the solution. Right there.
Yeah, it's like, you wouldn't have thought like I'm gonna ask this coaching client, but it just comes up. Yeah. What else? Any other? Yes, bro.
So a few years back, I had a really weird summer. My wife of 9 years ended up leaving me. My car broke down, and then I was contemplating file bankruptcy. And I was just crying out, and I was like, if there is a God, I could use some help right now. And I was doing the yoga teacher training. So the very next day, I went to the yoga teacher training, and then Tyler showed up to give a kirtan. And then I made friends with Tyler. It was about like a 30-second interaction, and then it just disappeared. But then he started posting videos of kirtan down here. So it didn't manifest immediately, but the chain of events was just like, and I sincerely cried out. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I could use some assistance, cosmic overlord. It turned out that Krishna appeared in my life, and here I am.
Hello.
I got one more that was really good too. Because me and you, we talked about it a while back. Festival of Chariots, for instance. Like I kept saying, I really want to, set up a booth at the Festival of Chariots. And I went looking for, somebody, and I kept trying and trying to get a hold of that person you sent me the number for, and they wasn't answering. And so I was like, okay, I guess maybe I'm not meant to do it. And then I was at the Festival of Chariots, and Hita Karina just randomly comes up to me, and she's like, hey, we're looking for somebody to go to set up a booth for shirts. And she came directly to me, and I literally was like, I've been looking for somebody. And that was the first one. But then the second was, I was like, well, I can maybe put about $150, $200 into it. And then all of a sudden, like, she's like, actually, I got about $600 of people that, what do you call it, sponsored it. So like, I didn't even have to put in my own money. Like, it actually was all provided for by Krishna. So like that whole event, just literally how I visualized it, like manifested that way. Like, it was so busy, so many people. And so it was just like, it was truly like Krishna's mercy. Like he made it happen exactly how I visualized, and it all came, and I didn't even have to go looking for it. Like I tried to look for it, but then it was like it came to me.
Any other stories, experiences where you're crying?
A small story, but also have a question. Which one should I do first?
Story first.
Okay, so when I just joined Krishna Consciousness, I got given this book by a friend. That was Lord Shiva's glorification of the Bhagavad Gita. It was Gita Mahadamya, glorification of Bhagavad Gita, and at the very end of that book, there's also something from I think the Padma Purana or something about the glorification of the Bhagavatam. It was a significantly shorter section. And I was reading on the tube in London. I was on my way to the temple. And I was thinking to myself, I was just getting off work on my way to the temple, and I was like, wow, it would be so nice to have, Bhagavatam. Because after reading the glorification, I'm like, wow, I'd really love to read that. Although, of course, it's online, but I don't just like to read on my phone all the time. But I was like, oh, I can't do that because I was like totally broke, I was like so broke. And on my way from Tottenham Court Road station, when you come out to the temple, it's about like a 100-meter walk. It's very short. And I was reading as I was walking, as the book was in my hand and the thought was in my head, I would really love a Bhagavatam. And I encountered this, so this devotee stops me. And then she's like, "Hi, would you like to take a book?" I was like, "Thank you so much. I already have that book." And she said, "Would you like this one?" I was like, "Thank you, Mataji. It's okay. I have them." And then she said, "Would you like a Bhagavatam?" I was like, "Yeah, I would love a Bhagavatam, but I don't have any cash." It's like 100 something pounds. I was like, thinking about when to buy food, you know. And she said, "Oh, I can give you a set." I was like, "What? What did you say?" And she's like, "Yeah, like today I'm like thinking of donating a set like from me because she's a distributor and she's like looking for people who she can give one set to." And I was like, "Really?" And she's like, "Yeah, no problem. Like, give me your number." I was like, "Wow."
That's fine.
Yeah. My question is, but you know, I feel like I've just not surrendered enough to let Krishna solve my problem. Um, but what is the situation when you're in a twist, right? Like you're just like, I've got myself here due to my multifarious material desires and simple tendencies. and, and then Krishna just like
America's not that bad. Even the material world, yeah.
Sure. But then like Krishna just sometimes I don't know, I just haven't understood it. Like he just drops a bomb on you. Like it's just like, you know, something he just yeah, because I've just, you know, sometimes, you know, I pray and then, you know, really tough situations come up. Like it's not like yeah, and I'm just like, oh my God, oh my God, you know, what to do.
Yeah. Life has so many tough problems that come up for sure, and yeah, and you know, in the Bhagavatam just says we might be a pure devotee, exactly. They might be pure and pure, whatever. You still pray, and the way Krishna will react and give solutions might be fast or slow or gradual. For Krishna, yeah, the main thing is he tries to attract our hearts to him. So whatever his solution is going to do that, and it might be gradual. And yeah, sometimes it just takes. Yeah, it's like it's like you're in trouble. And it's like a wound, and it's to heal. And so sometimes it's gradual, and just time is also Krishna. Krishna says time. So time is the healing panacea sometimes. So sometimes it's just a matter of time. You can see that as Krishna also. But yeah, it's just a matter of time. And in this material world, yeah, sometimes time is on our side, sometimes time is not. And but either way, it's Krishna. So sometimes it's a matter of time. Yeah. But it reminds me of the verse, the famous verse, Tatena Kampam Susamikshimana. Lord Brahma is praying to Krishna after he got chastised for stealing the cow boys and cows. And he's saying that, a devotee who always prays to you while amidst going through all the difficulties in life is surely eligible for liberation. And so, the Tatena Kampam means to shake, and sometimes we're really distressed, start shaking, either anxiety or fear. And so it says anukampam, that the devotee is shaking, but anukampam, Krishna shakes with them, he vibrates with them. So one might be shaking in anxiety, but Krishna also feels the devotee's pain and moves with them wherever the devotee is going or whatever they're feeling. So Krishna's always there, and his solutions might come immediately or might take time. It doesn't, just us asking for depending on Krishna is a sign of surrender. Yeah, sure, we might not be pure devotees, or one might not be fully surrendered, but just that asking for help is a sign of surrender, and for Krishna that is plenty. Krishna has a very big heart, so that's plenty. I hope that addresses something. Do you have something to talk to?
In connection to your question and this purport, actually, you were saying that the reason Supreme Lord asked the demigods to go and churn the milk ocean is because the demons have taken Amravati, which is the headquarters.
Yeah.
Right? And the demigods want it back. So one might think that desire is like material. You want your position back in our lives. It's like, I want my money back. I want my girlfriend back, whatever. So, but by virtue of this pastime, because of that difficulty, they were able to actually consider the Lord's words, instructions. And so, my meditation is that if things are going good, great. But if things are going bad, that's awesome, because that means Krishna is actually, directly intervening in our life. And I think it was Bhakti Tirth Maharaj himself who was saying that when there are two lovers, one of the lovers will pull the other lover to them, and that might seem like a shock, like physically, like you're pulling towards them, but that is actually a sign of their love. And so when adversity strikes, it's actually the Lord actively pulling our strings so that we come closer to Him. And so the demigods got the association of the Supreme Lord because of their adversity.
Yeah. Otherwise, they're just hanging out in Amravati, having fun. That's true. Yeah, thank you, bro. Thank you for that. Nice point. Yeah, it's true. It's like when you're going to something and it's really approach the Bhagavatam and you study the Bhagavatam, you're doing something. Again, it's the Bhagavatam is a person. It's Krishna himself. So with that, with whatever mood you go to the Bhagavatam. I remember when I've gone to the Bhagavatam. We should end this with it. Sorry. All right, Kantashi on Bhagavatam ki.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,